Good evening. Today we're going to review lesson 20 from module 2, dividing 2 and 3-digit dividends by 2-digit divisors. Before we start, we have to make sure we have our students and children addressing each of the numbers in a division problem properly. The proper names are dividend and divisor. The first number is the dividend, 84. The second number is the divisor, 32. We also must set up the division house correctly. The divisor, or second number, always goes on the outside. So we set up by putting the 32, division house, 84. Now, what we also have been talking about is making sure that we do not forget to put the decimal in our dividend to make sure we put our answers or quotient in the proper place value. So we are going to put our decimal at the end, because if any number does not have a decimal, it always goes at the end. We then are going to bring it straight up to make sure we keep it in the same place for our quotient. Now, for any division problem, you start with a divisor, and you have to ask yourselves how many times or how many groups of this 32 can we put into 84? Well, we could easily try to put 32 into 84, but we want to make sure we do not put our answer or quotient in the wrong place value. So we are going to start with our 32 and ask how many times can 32 go into 8? Well, because 32 is much bigger than 8, it cannot go into that number. So we're going to put a 0. Then we multiply 0 times our divisor, which is 0. Then we subtract 8 minus 0, which is 8. We then look next door in our dividend and bring down the next number to help out. We now can ask how many times can 32 go into 84, and we put our answer, we will put it in the correct place value, which is the ones place. So to tackle this problem, we ask, well, what can we change 32 to make this an easier number to count by to get up to 84? Well, if I change 32 and round it to the nearest place value, I can underline my 3, draw my arrow to the 2, and ask, what does that 2 make the 3 do? Well, since 2 is 5 or 4 or less, it's going to let the 3 rest, and we can change it to a 30. 30 is very close to 32. So now I can count in my head by 30s. Well, we know 30 times 1 is 30, 30 times 2 is 60, 30 times 3 is 90. Well, once we get to 90, we know we have gone too far for 84. So it can't be times 3. We're going to back up and only do 30 times 2. Now, we're going to first test this out because we don't really have 30, we have 32. So I'm going to double check to make sure that 32 times 2 is not larger than 84. So quickly set up the problem, 32 times 2, and solve it. 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6. Well, if we look, 64 is definitely under 84. And we can't add 32 more to it because we'll go over our remainder. So 32 can go into 84 2 times. We then again multiply our quotient by our divisor. 2 times 32, which we already have over here, is 64. We then subtract to get our final remainder. 4 minus 4 is 0. 8 minus 6 is 2. Now we have our remainder of 20. The last step to solve this is to check our work. It's important to make sure we check our work so we don't make any silly mistakes. Well, our pattern, or the way to check a division problem, is by taking our divisor, multiplying it by our quotient, and then adding our remainder to see if it equals our original dividend. So let's set that up. Our divisor times our quotient is 32 times 2. Well, if we look, we've already solved that over here on the left side of our paper. So that is 64. We then bring that 64 down, and we are going to add our remainder of 20, which is how much is left over. Now, some students can do this mentally in their head, but some students can't. So let's quickly set it up. 64 plus 20. 0 plus 4 is 4. 6 plus 2 is 8. 64 plus 20 is 84. And if we look, 84 is our original dividend. So that shows that I have corrected this problem and I correctly divided it. So this problem is now checked and finished.